When I first met Daniel, I thought he was everything I had ever prayed for. He was charming, soft-spoken, and always smiled when he looked at me, that kind of smile that made you feel safe. I still remember the first night we met. He held the door open for me and said, "A woman like you deserves to be loved right." I believed him. In the beginning, our marriage was like a dream. He brought me flowers every Friday, made me coffee every morning, and called me his little sunshine. I used to tell my friends, I finally found my forever. But slowly, the sunshine started to fade. It began with small things, a harsh word, a raised tone, a silent night. Then, the first time he hit me, it felt unreal. He said he was sorry, that he was stressed, that it would never happen again. I wanted to believe him so badly that I forgave him within hours. But that was the start of my hell. Every month, his temper grew darker. He would get angry over burnt toast, over a misplaced phone charger, even over the sound of me crying. Sometimes I'd stand in the kitchen, frozen, wondering if the next sound from me would make him explode. My friends stopped calling. My family thought I was busy. Because Daniel never let me talk to anyone. He said, "You don't need anyone but me." And I started believing that too. One night, I made dinner late, just 10 minutes late, and that was enough. He grabbed the plate, threw it at the wall, and screamed until my ears rang. When he raised his hand again, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just stood there, staring at the man who once swore to protect me. I started feeling like a shadow, inside my own home. Every mirror in that house showed a stranger, a woman with swollen eyes and fake smiles. Then, one evening, I passed out. I woke up in the hospital with a bandage on my head and Daniel holding my hand, crying. He told the nurse I fell. He told everyone he was worried sick. But I knew the truth. I didn't fall. He pushed me. As I lay there, staring at the ceiling lights, something inside me broke, and then something else quietly woke up. For the first time in years, I didn't feel afraid. I felt angry. And in that anger, I found the first spark of strength. Didn't leave right away. When I opened my eyes in that hospital bed, I told myself, just one more night. But that night turned into a week, and every heartbeat in that house reminded me that I was still a prisoner. Daniel acted differently after that. He brought flowers again. He made me breakfast. He told me, "You scared me, baby. I thought I was going to lose you." His voice trembled. His eyes looked soft, almost human again. And for a moment, I almost believed him. But the bruise under my sleeve was still purple. The cut on my lip still burned every time I smiled. No apology could erase that. So I started planning, quietly, carefully. When he went to work, I started hiding small things. A few bills inside an old book, my ID under the mattress, a small bag of clothes in the laundry basket. I told the neighbors I was decluttering. In truth, I was preparing for war. Every day, I practiced how I would leave. I imagined walking out that door and not looking back. But fear kept whispering, "What if he finds you?" I'd seen what he was capable of. I knew his rage better than anyone. Then one afternoon, I went to the grocery store and I met Mrs. Carter. She was an older woman, gentle and kind. She noticed the bruise on my wrist even though I tried to hide it. She didn't ask questions. She just looked at me and said softly, "You don't have to live like this, sweetheart." Something in her voice broke me. For the first time in months, I cried not in fear but in relief. She gave me a card. It had the number of a women's support group written on it. That night, I hid in the bathroom, trembling, and called the number. A woman named Grace answered. Her voice was calm, warm, and strong. She said, "We can help you. You just have to tell me when you're ready." I wanted to be ready. But I wasn't, not yet. Every day after that, I played the part. I smiled when Daniel came home. I laughed when he made jokes, and I cooked his favorite meals. But inside, I was counting days. I learned how to move in silence, how to breathe quietly, how to hide fear behind my eyes. And one night, While he was asleep, I stood over him and whispered, "One day you'll wake up and I'll be gone." The next morning, I put on my favorite dress, the one he hated. He asked, "Why are you dressed up?" I smiled and said, "Just wanted to feel beautiful again." He laughed. He didn't know it was the last time he'd ever see me smile under his roof. That night, after he left for a late shift, I packed my small bag, grabbed my hidden cash, and called Grace. She said, "We're waiting for you, don't look back." I looked around that house one last time. The walls that had heard my screams, the kitchen that smelled of fear, the bed where I'd prayed for peace. And then I walked out. It was raining, the kind of soft rain that feels like a blessing. Every drop on my skin felt like the world washing me clean. I didn't run, I didn't cry. I just walked, one step at a time, toward my freedom. For the first time in years, I could breathe. And that night, as I sat in the small shelter Grace brought me to, wrapped in a warm blanket, I whispered, "I made it." But deep down, I knew my journey wasn't over. I had escaped him. Now I had to find myself. The first few nights at the shelter were quiet, too quiet. Silence can be a strange thing when you've lived in fear for so long. Every creak of the floor, every door closing in the hallway made my heart race. But Grace, the woman who had answered my call, told me, "You're safe now, you can rest." Rest. I didn't even remember what that felt like. I spent days just trying to remember who I was before the bruises, before the fear. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a face I barely recognized, tired eyes, trembling lips, but there was a flicker of something new. Maybe it was hope. I started attending group meetings. Women sat in a circle, each with their own story, some more painful than mine. But every story had one thing in common: survival. And as I listened, something inside me started to change. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a survivor. It wasn't easy. Daniel tried calling me at first, dozens of times. Then came the messages, the fake apologies, the promises. He even sent flowers to the shelter once, though he didn't know I was there. The staff threw them away. That night, I cried again, not because I missed him, but because I finally didn't. Weeks passed, then months. I found a small job at a cafe nearby. The first paycheck I held in my hands made me shake with pride. It wasn't much, but it was mine, earned with my own strength. One day, Mrs. Carter, the same woman who had given me the number, came to see me. She smiled and said, "You're glowing." I laughed for the first time in so long. Sometimes, I'd still have bad dreams, flashbacks of his voice, his anger. But every time I woke up, I whispered, "You're safe now." And that reminder became my shield. Months later, Grace asked me to share my story with a new group of women. I was nervous, my hands were shaking. But as I started speaking, the words came naturally, like they had been waiting for this moment. I told them about fear, about pain, about the night I finally left. And when I finished, one woman whispered through tears, "If you can do it, maybe I can too." That moment changed everything. I realized that my story wasn't just mine anymore. It was a voice for those still trapped behind closed doors. I began volunteering at the shelter, helping new women find their footing, guiding them through their first nights of freedom. Every hug, every tear, every smile reminded me of how far I'd come. One afternoon, as I was leaving work, I passed a mirror in the cafe's hallway. I stopped. The woman staring back at me was strong. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now carried peace and quiet power. For the first time, I whispered to my reflection, "I'm proud of you." Years later, I never saw Daniel again. But sometimes, when I walk past women who hide bruises behind long sleeves or sunglasses, my heart aches for them. Because I know that pain. And I know there's a way out. Now, every year, on the day I left him, I light a candle. Not for the pain, but for the woman who finally found the courage to walk through the storm and never look back. Because the truth is, strength doesn't come from never breaking. It comes from breaking and still choosing to rise. This is not just my story. It's the story of every woman who learned that love doesn't hurt, it heals.